सतुदान विरोधे जन्मे जन्मे तेरी उदान विरोधे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान तुझे तो प्रतीतो दिव्य ज्ञान तुझे तो प्रतीतो भक्ति जागो तेरा विद्या विनाश जयते भक्ति जागो तेरा विद्या विनाश जयते वेदे गायिका हर चरितो वेदे गायिका हर चरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु मधुर श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु तेरा दीवाना तेरा दीवाना हमारे दादा छाया Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Krishna Krishna Hare Bhakti Vedanta Swami Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Vishesha Sundevadi Ashatyani Shatani Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Vishesha Sundevadi Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gautravatame Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gautravatame Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की रामाचार्य श्री हरदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से गो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरी गोवर्धन की श्री मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की श्री नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की श्री जगन्नाथपुरी क्षेत्र की गंगा माई की यमुना माई की शक्ति देवी की तुलसी देवी की ग्रंथ राज श्रीमद् भागवतम की समवेत गौर भक्तवृंद की all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories and glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Guru.
Maybe each appearance kind of looks a little active, but this, I think we.
Hold on, sir.
Do we, I think it was better when you had it over here, but I don't wanna see myself there. Just move it over here. Yeah. It's fine. Yeah. We'll take maybe another one or two, I will set it on my one. Yeah, harmony. Harmony.
Oh.
Hello, creature, around. Thank you. Go. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13. Thank you so much. And this is text number 49. Is that the one?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. Soyam Adya Maharaja
Soyamadya Maharaja.
Bhagavan Bhutavavanaha
Bhagavan Bhutavavanaha.
Kalarupa Vatirno Syam
Kalarupa Vatirnosyam.
Havaya Sura Dvisam
Avavaya Sudadvisham.
Sa,
Sa.
that Supreme Lord.
The Supreme Lord.
Ayam,
Ayam.
the Lord Shri Krishna.
The Lord Shri Krishna.
Adya,
Adya.
at present.
At present.
Maharaj,
Maharaj.
O King.
O King.
Bhagavan,
Bhagavan.
personality of Godhead.
The personality of God.
Bhuta Bhavanaha,
Bhutavavanaha.
the creator or the father of everything created.
Creator of the Father of everything created.
Kalarupaha,
Kalarupaha.
in the disguise of all devouring time.
In the disguise of all devouring time.
Vatirnaha,
Atiranaha.
descended.
Descended.
Asyam,
Asyam.
upon the world.
Upon the world.
Abhavaya,
Abhavaya.
for eliminating.
For eliminating.
Sudvisham,
Sudvisham.
those who are against the will of the Lord.
Those who are against the will of the Lord.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, in the guise of all devouring time, Kala Rupa, has now descended on earth to eliminate the envious from the world. Purport: there are two classes of human beings, namely the envious and the obedient. Since the Supreme Lord is one and the Father of all living beings, The envious living beings are also his sons, but they are known as asuras. But the living beings who are obedient to the Supreme Father are called devatas, or demigods, because they are not contaminated by the material conception of life. Not only are the asuras envious of the Lord and even denying the existence of the Lord, but they are also envious of all other living beings. The predominance of asuras in the world is occasionally rectified by the Lord when he eliminates them from the world and establishes a rule of devatas, like the Pandavas. His designation as Kala in disguise is significant. He is not at all dangerous, but he is the transcendental form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. For the devotees, his factual form is disclosed, and for the non-devotees, he appears like Kala Rupa, which is causal form. This causal form of the Lord is not at all pleasing to the asuras, and therefore they think of the Lord as formless in order to feel secure that they will not be vanquished by the Lord. Vanchakapatubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam bhavanevyo vaishnavevyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram. In this verse, we're hearing how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. So God, he's a person. A lot of religions actually don't think God's a person. Like I've seen these tracts, the Christian tracts, and just it's like I don't know, like a little circle, but no understanding that he's actually a person. And the reason is they think that if God is a person, then he'll have characteristics like ourselves, called anthropomorphism. Yeah. And what are the characteristics of ourselves? We have a tendency to make mistakes, to be an illusion, imperfect senses, and cheating capacity. So these are the four defects. So they think, well, if God's a person, he'll also have these defects. But no, Krishna, he's a person, but he's a perfect person. He doesn't have this tendency to be an illusion. He's never an illusion. He always knows that he is the Supreme, as he says in the Bhagavad Gita. And that we are all his parts and parcels. He's never, he doesn't cheat. He comes and he gives the absolute truth. Just the opposite. So many cheaters in this world that claim to be helping the people. But Krishna, he knows what's best for everyone. And he has everyone's best interest at heart. Yeah. That's Krishna. He doesn't make mistakes. Except that there was a time when Krishna saw Radharani, she was churning yogurt, but there was nothing in the pot. She was in her bhav, ecstasy. And when Krishna saw that, he started milking a bowl. Can't milk a bowl. The problem is Krishna went into ecstasy also. So he That's one mistake that we know of. But that's an ecstasy. That's allowed. That's auspicious. So, yeah, but we make mistakes all the time. Anybody here never make a mistake? Yes, yes. We always make mistakes. Cheating method. You see, we have a tendency to be an illusion. We can't change that. I mean, we make mistakes. We have imperfect senses. We can't change these things. We have imperfect senses. Yeah. Always make a mistake. But we can avoid cheating. We can avoid that. The tendency to cheat. We can stop that if we're sincere. But with all these frailties, all these imperfect senses, tended to be an illusion, imperfect senses, it's hard to not cheat. It's hard. But the more we're connected to Krishna, the more our senses get purified. And then we could act properly and not cheat. So here also in the verse it's mentioned that Kala, Rupa, all devouring time. As it said that the sun is taking away everyone's life. What's the verse? Ayurharti Vaya Ujan Astancha Tashate Yakukshanamida Uttama Shloka Bharti. Now for every rising and setting of the sun, a day is lost, except for that person who utilizes their time in glorifying Krishna. So Prabhupada said we can defeat the sun. Yeah. We can defeat the sun by Krishna Gita. By Krishna Gita. By Krishna Gita, we get purified, right? And by this purification, when the soul leaves the body, we go back to Krishna. There's no sun there. Everything is self-illuminated. Just like maybe when you were children, we had these little glow in the dark balls. Yeah. So the whole planet, the planets in the spiritual world, they glow. No need for the sun. Yeah. So we can defeat the sun if we become Krishna conscious. But that's a challenge. But to be completely Krishna conscious, we have to, what is it Vaisesika Prabhu says? Keep the vibration going.
To keep the transcendental vibration.
Keep the transcendental vibration going. Don't stop the vibration. As soon as we stop the vibration, then that gives Maya a chance to move in. So we got to keep the vibration going. Saratam kirtiyantam mam yatantushka dvirvata namashantastamanda nityavukta upaste. This is the position of a devotee. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls, they perpetually worship me with devotion. So this is how to defeat the sun. Otherwise, we're defeated. And how are we defeated? Atyahara prayasascha prajapanyamagra janasamgasta layancha sadir bhaktir prasiditi. Prasidi means defeated. So if we eat too much, if we collect too much, we don't. Our whole our motto is simple living, high thinking. We don't need. We eat simply. We don't need much. Of course, now we're trying to build this big temple, so we need a lot. But that's to build Krishna's temple, so that's okay. To collect a lot to build Krishna a beautiful temple, that's cool. That's good. And we need a lot. So, but we shouldn't eat too much. I remember reading the Bhagavad Gita that a devotee, or is it maybe Srimad Bhagavatam, a devotee eats to live. In other words, they live to eat. Right? And therefore in France, believe it or not, they had these, they would have parties and they would have a vomit room.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go and they eat so much, but then they want to eat more, so there's a vomit room. They go, they go and vomit so they can eat more. Yeah. Out of control senses, yeah. One time Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he told one of his disciples, he said, what is Krishna going to do with your big belly? In other words, go on a diet, you don't eat so much. We don't need much to keep the body and soul together, right? So, Atyahara Prajapo, also over-endeavoring for mundane things. We shouldn't over-endeavor for mundane things. Then Prajapo, Prajapo means we're talking nonsense. As Prabhupada said, just like the frog is croaking, ribbit, 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 ribbit. And then what does that call? The snake. The snake. Here's the frog croaking and his death. So, but if we're always hearing about Krishna, glorifying Krishna, then this doesn't call the snake of death. But actually, also devotees die, but it's different. And Prabhupada gives the example just like a cat. A cat, when it catches a mouse, it's dead. But the same cat takes the kitten in its teeth, and the kitten feels the loving embrace of the mother. It's a big difference. So if we're thinking of Krishna at the time of death, then no problem. No problem. Then we go back to Krishna. Prabhupada said actually we don't go straight back to Krishna. We go to a planet where Krishna is performing his pastimes. And there we get trained up on how to live with Krishna and his devotees. Yeah. And Krishna is always going around. Nitya Leelas, transcendental pastimes, always going around performing his pastimes in the universes. So we go there and we learn how to live with Krishna. And then we go back to Goloka Vrindavan, hopefully. So, Atyahara Prayas Prajapo Niyamagraha means following the rules and regulations without knowing the purpose. The purpose is to get purified. That's why we're doing everything we're doing. Well, to please Krishna, also, but to get purified so that we could please Krishna to a high degree. But this is why we're doing all that we're doing. Prajapo Niyama Jana Sangas, bad association. If we associate with materialistic people, we get those characteristics. In Brazil, they have a saying that you tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are. Or here we have this thing very common. Birds of a feather, they flock together. So therefore we have to take the association of devotees. Of course we go out and we preach, but we're giving. We go out and we're giving Krishna, not that we're associating. We shouldn't get too close to the non-devotees while we're out preaching, because it's dangerous. I mean, I know examples of devotees. They're going out and they're preaching and they meet some, for instance, Brahmacharya, meets a nice lady and gets her information because she's nice, interested, and they exchange emails and eventually ends up marrying her. It's happened a few times. And then a few years later, then the divorce. She's not a devotee. She may be favorable, but she's not a devotee. Incompatible. So we have to be careful about who we associate with. And especially if we associate with devotees that are very advanced in Krishna consciousness, then that also rubs off onto us. And it's not just by the vahu, but it's by the vani. The vani is the instructions, vahu is the form. So fortunately, Srila Prabhupada has left us about 1,000, I think over 1,000 lectures. So we can still associate with Prabhupada. He reasons ill who say that Vaishnavas die while still living in sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living spread the whole name. So Prabhupada is still very much alive in his lectures, in his books, in his memories. There's so many nice memories that devotees have left that they've had with Srila Prabhupada. So in this way we can associate with Prabhupada, and there's so many wonderful devotees that we can associate with, and from these devotees we learn how to be Krishna conscious, how to serve. Prajapo nima janasama taloyam cha. And we should not be greedy. If we get too greedy, then it lowers our consciousness. Big problem. Lust, anger, and greed. Just like they have all over the world, they have this gambling. But gambling is it's actually one of the most addictive things on the planet. People gambled away their homes, and even the Pandavas, they gambled away. Yudhishthira gambled away his brothers and his wife, and he's a pure devotee. Goes to see there's gambling. Disturbing. One time Prabhupada was joking, and he said, actually, we are also gambling. Because gambling means you put something up and you have to get something back. So we're giving our life to Krishna, but we don't know what we're going to get back. Ultimately, we don't know. It's up to Krishna. We try our best. We're giving our life, best way we can, with the hope. Just like the gamblers, they give so much with the hope they'll get something, something big back, right? So we're also hoping that we can get Krishna's mercy. It's kind of transcendental gambling. We don't know. Like in many of places in Prabhupada's books, he says that what is that? Krishna is the source of our remembrance and forgetfulness, not to forget. Anyway, so this purport, Prabhupada, in the first sentence, he says, there are two classes of human beings, namely the envious and the obedient. So in this world, there's a lot of envious people. So many people that are envious of God. And therefore there's atheistic societies, especially in Europe. They just don't want to hear anything about God. They want anything to do with God. And therefore there's even a movement to take, in all our currency, even in America, it says, in God we trust. So they want to take that off. They've taken it to court so many times to try to take that off, because they're walking around, they're atheists, and they're walking around with currency that says, in God we trust. And it just irks them to death. So they're trying to take that off. But fortunately, this country is still somewhat God conscious. So it's Hopefully it never happens. Actually, Prabhupada said the reason America is so opulent is because it is the only country in the world where it says, "In God we trust," in all the currents. That's why. I mean, even though I think we're about $30 trillion in debt. That's probably the only country in the world also that's got $30 trillion in debt. But still, things go on like things going on. Like, it's Krishna's mystic ability, you know. $30 trillion, that's a lot of money. People do a bunch of things are just going on. Yeah. So this is Krishna's mercy. Let's see if it ever does happen that they take that off. Let's see what happens. You know? Just like when Krishna was on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, after the war, Arjuna said to Krishna, "Okay, Krishna, you can get off." And Krishna said, "No, you get off first, then I'll get off." And as soon as Krishna got off, the chariot just it was like a hydrogen bomb because it was being attacked. But because Krishna was there was no effect. So let's see what happens if they ever take that off. You know? Major catastrophe in America if they ever take that off. So envious, what does this word envy mean? It means that someone has a quality, but it's not recognized. And Prabhupada gives the example of a person who was very envious of another person in their youth. They just hated them. And then this person that this person hated, he became a high court judge. And another friend said, "You know that person that you were so envious of and hated so much? He's a high court judge." He said, "No, I don't believe it." "Yeah, I saw him myself. He's sitting on the bench. He's a high court judge." "Yeah, but they're probably not paying him." This is envy. So it's very qualified. But no, just won't accept it. This is envy. So an envy is it's a horrible quality. And the original envy is envy of Krishna. We saw Krishna. We were there with Krishna and we saw Krishna. Well, I would like to be in that position. I would like to be Krishna. But as soon as we thought that, then we came here. Because in the spiritual world, there's one God. There's no competition. So we said, "All right, you want to be God? Yeah, there's a place where you can try to be God." Actually, I heard recently that Krishna's trying to convince them, don't try. No, I want to give it a try. All right. He has that free will. Like Krishna, he said to Arjuna, "Oh, I think it might be locked." Someone, was it male? Oh, so after the battle, after Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, he said to Arjuna, "Now I've described to you knowledge, which is even more confidential. Now you meditate on it and you describe, you decide what you want to do. You do as you wish." Itite jnanam akyatam guya yutmamaya vimrsa sesina iteti takri. Now I've explained to you knowledge even more. Now you decide whatever you wish to do, you do it. So this is Krishna. He's not, of course, he loves everybody, but he doesn't interfere with the free will. This is also the kindness of Krishna. But still he comes because he knows he's not going to be happy without a relationship with me. Just like if you take a fish out of the ocean and you give it a big mansion, you give it a BMW, give it a Tesla also, give it a Rolls Royce, give a nice prasadam, beautiful woman, give them a big bank account, millions of dollars. Not gonna work. And the fish has to go back in the ocean. So similarly, in the material world, people are getting so much, just like here in where's that, Palo Alto. It's such a ritzy place. So many rich people, but the high school there, they have more suicides in that high school than any other high school in the country, or at least it's way up there. So one might say, well, why? They're sons of rich parents, they got everything. Why are they not satisfied? There was one lady, she became a devotee, and she had parents like that, very wealthy. And the mother went up to her and said, my dear daughter, I gave you everything you wanted. Why? Why have you joined the Hare Krishna? And the daughter said, Mom, you gave me everything I wanted except for love. You didn't give me love. Here, I'm experiencing love. That's why. She felt a little bad because things don't bring happiness. Although this is a big consumer society, so many things. Like if you go into these big, these Walmarts, these mass Walmarts, 99% of the stuff in there, nobody needs.
Yeah.
Isn't it? We don't need. And 200 years ago, nobody had any of those things. Practically. I'm sure they lived a lot happier, Now there's just so much stress, so much with all these gadgets. It's very difficult for people to concentrate now because they have the computers and iPhones and iPads and Facebook, they can't concentrate, even for like I'm trying to get their attention when I'm distributing books. And it's very hard to keep their attention on what I'm saying, and showing the pictures and stuff. Because their mind has just become so fickle. There's all this. So the one thing that will make people happy is devotional service. And that's the other one. See, there's the envious and there's the obedient. If we become obedient, what does obedient mean? It means we obey. If we obey Krishna, if we're obedient, then we can be satisfied by this service to Krishna. Otherwise, we'll never be satisfied. Krishna Bhakta, Nishkama, Ateva Shanta, Bhukti Mukti, Siddhikami, Sukhayasha. The devotee is satisfied. Krishna Bhakti Nishkama. Why? Because it doesn't desire all these things. He just wants to serve Krishna. He knows if I just serve Krishna, I'll be satisfied. Because he's heard. Because he's heard nicely. He's heard from the Guru. He's heard from the Vedas that this will bring satisfaction and not all this material life. But Bhukti Mukti, those persons who have these material desires, Bhukti Mukti, desire and liberation, Bhukti Mukti, Siddhikami, mystic perfection, they cannot be happy because they have some material desire. They're wasting their time. Time is so valuable. It's mentioned here. Tato Brahma Yujnana. Now is the time to inquire the absolute truth. And what is the symptom of the disease in this material world? Death. I was just reading, Prabhu said the symptom of the disease in this material world is death. These bodies are a disease. Just to have the body itself, it's a disease. Why? Because there's old age, there's death, there's disease, there's birth. This is not natural for the soul. Prabhupada said the soul was embarrassed to be in the material body because the nature of the soul is eternality, knowledge, and bliss. So these bodies are not eternal. They're going to get old. It's already old. This one's already old. Old age, disease. Nobody wants disease. I'm experiencing that. Got to deal with these diseases. Actually, I'm not doing too bad. I was talking to a doctor yesterday, and she said, "Do you take any medicine?" I said, "No." "Do you take alcohol?" "Nope." "You take drugs?" "Nope." You're going, what kind of person are you? But I'm a monk, I haven't taken any, I haven't even eaten meat in 46 years. She said, "Well, you're a perfect patient." So yeah, Prabhupada has given us a perfect life. We just have to take advantage. Otherwise, yeah, we have to go through it again. But in one purpose, Prabhupada says, the greatest fear of a devotee is to again go into the cycle of birth and death, to enter into another diseased body. It's very interesting, Prabhupada said, just to have a material body means you got a disease. Because so many problems. Not just the body, but the mind, the ego, so many problems. But we're in the process of becoming free of this disease, this material body. And we should take advantage, be very careful. Prabhupada said, my disciples have two diseases, since we're talking about disease. One is we're not enough afraid of Maya. We should have a firm fear of Maya. And the other, we like to change things. It's the two diseases. It's like there was one devotee who said, Prabhupada, this movement is so nice. It's such a great movement. We have such a nice philosophy and we have such a nice process. But if we just had 3 regular principles instead of 4, it would be incredible. It says no gambling, no intoxication, no meeting, stop there. He said, I'm not interested in having many stars, but if I could just get one moon, one pure devotee, that will be the success. Now, what is this sex life? It's just, the pigs and the dogs, they're also having sex. The cockroaches, they're all having sex. What's the big deal? It's overrated. It's overrated. Just like there was one devotee, a very nice devotee. He liked Harinam a lot. And before he joined, he had never had sex. He was a Naishika brahmachari. Then at one point, he decided he wanted to get married. So he got married. And, according to religious principles, he had sex to have a child. And then after he had sex, he said, that's it? That's what everybody's talking about? That's the big thing? That's nothing compared to a good kirtan. I was like, wow, that's good. A couple minutes, little pleasure, for the body. But that's it. But kirtan gets going. Nice, So it's not that big a thing. It's overrated. And the result, if you have sex, according to religious principles, and you have a child, you got a big responsibility. You got to raise that child in Krishna consciousness, and in such a way that he overcomes the cycle of birth and death. Guru na sasyat, sutino na sasyat. If you can't deliver your dependents, if the guru can't deliver his disciples from the repetition of birth and death, don't become a guru. It's a big responsibility to be a guru or a father. Don't be a father, don't be a mother. Don't be a demigod, don't be a teacher if you can't deliver your dependents and the reputation of birth and death. It's huge responsibility. And if someone is so qualified that they can deliver their son from the repetition of birth and death, that's very advanced. Then why get involved at all? Why get entangled? Just Hare Krishna. Just so it's kind of like catch-22. So, is there any question? Okay.
Sorry, I had a comment and 2 questions.
Yeah.
I was just searching online about the suicide thing, and it said there's a CDC report, and it said 42% among high school students, and it said 42% experience feelings of hopelessness and sadness, 22 considers attempting suicide, and 18% made a suicide plan, and 10% actually attempt it.
When I was in school, I was in high school, the teacher asked, how many of you in here have thought of committing suicide? And myself and one other person didn't raise their hand. We're talking about, that's 95%. This was in California, Southern California. Everybody raised their hand except me and one other person. I was like, wow, these people thinking they thought of suicide. I was a pretty happy kid when I was growing up, so I never thought of that. But wow, yeah, it's a strange world we live in. Yeah, it's a place of misery, a lot of suffering, a lot of bullying going on, isn't it? Still, yeah. It's not a nice place, and that's why Krishna comes to invite us back to the spiritual world. That's why he sends his representatives. So many ways he's trying to help us. So we should take advantage of everything that he's doing to help us, and we should also help him. Family business. And Krishna will be very pleased. You had a question?
Yeah, I was just confused on 2 things. So one is he appears like the Kala Rupa, which is a causal form for non-devotee. What is that? What is a causal form?
I was thinking about that causal. Well, the cause, he's the cause of all causes. Yeah, he's the cause of all causes. Right? Nothing happens. Even there's an English saying that not a blade of grass moves without the sanction.
Is that the universal form?
No. He says, with a single fragment of myself, I pervade this, and that's a super soul. So the super soul, of course, an expansion of Krishna. So he's arranging everything.
Would you say, just looking at the purport, Kala is an example of causal form?
Yeah. Time is not independent. Actually, it's a form of Krishna. Kalos me. That I've come in the form of time to destroy. Kalos me. I am time. So that's an impersonal form of Krishna. Time. So we should utilize it properly. And if we don't, we'll be sorry.
And then I guess the last question I have is, this is the last sentence. It said, Prabhupada says, they think of the Lord as formless in order to feel secure that they will not be vanquished by the Lord.
That's an interesting statement there, isn't it? I thought about that too. The causal form of the Lord is not at all pleasing to the Asuras, because he's the cause of everything. So they don't believe in God. But if they're thinking there is someone that they don't want to think there's somebody that God does exist, because then they're in a heap of trouble, right? Just like this, Blaise.
Oh, I see.
What's it, Blaise?
Ignorance is bliss.
No. Blaise. What's his name? He's a scientist back in the 17th century. Blaise Pascal. Pascal's wager. He said there's only 4 ways to go. There's a God, and you serve God. There's a God, and you don't serve God. There isn't a God, and you serve that God that you think exists. There is no God, and you don't serve God. There's only he was a mathematician. He figured it out. He's smart. He was a thief. So if there's a God, it's actually it's called Pascal's wager. Pascal's wager. If there's a God and you serve God, you're the winner. You win the jackpot. Right? Especially if you serve God with love. You go back home. So if there's a God and you don't serve God, you're in a heap of trouble. Because there's laws. Yeah. Let's say there's people here in America, they don't believe in the government. You know, just like when Trump lost the election 4 years ago, you know, they went ballistic. You know, they went into the White House and they're like, just, you know, it was insane. First time ever in the history of America. You know, and authorities had to leave because these guys, they went berserk. Let's see what happens this time. If he loses again, you know, I don't know, it might be a fratricidal war in America or something. So, and then if there is no God and you serve God, this is the third one, still he's a winner because religious people, they have a tendency to be more moral and nice and happier. Yeah. And then the last one, if there is no God and you don't serve God, so that's just people that are living the way they are right now, like in Europe, you know, they think there's no God and they're just living their life, you know, as there's no God, but they're in for a big surprise. They're in for a big surprise.
Oh, look at you. All right, yeah.
Is there a question online?
Hare Krishna.
Having a conversation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I hate to be so grim, but we were talking about suicide and a few thoughts on that, especially in regards to Palo Alto, because I take the train, and so a lot of the suicides just so happen to be kids jumping in front of the train. And I read an article previously about how the mentality of people who try to kill themselves, like so common or more common attempts are drug overdoses or attempted drug overdoses, but you're more likely to survive from those kinds of attempts. So, but when you jump in front of the train, there's a deep hatred for the self. They're trying to destroy the self completely. But again, they don't know that they're eternal living entities. And so one morning, I was taking the train, and it was like a 8 a.m. train, so everyone's on the way to work. It's crowded, and people are mostly on their cell phones, tired, and all of a sudden the train stopped, and it stayed stopped for about 20 minutes at one station, and people are getting very agitated. What's going on? What's going on? Asking the conductor, making phone calls, calling their boss. I'm going to be late. I'm going to be late. People were panicking. Even myself, I was getting a little itchy too. And so the train, after 20 or so minutes, started to slowly ease forward, but the commotion didn't stop. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? You know, we're going to be late. Especially in Silicon Valley, it's how Sunny Mountain, a lot of complaints. This is not right. This is not right. Wagging their finger around. But then when we saw why we had been stopped, because the train now is slowly creeping forward because there's so many paramedics, police, and personnel around the train tracks, we had seen the reason why we were stopped. It was a teeny little body bag, you know, because when you get hit by a train, your body's not put together. There's scattered pieces of body all around. And then all of a sudden the train, once we passed by, because now we're going about 15 miles an hour or less, by the body, the train was completely silent in 1 minute. It went from the commotion to silence, and everyone at that moment had become sober. And then getting off the train, it was very, very quiet. So yeah, it's a bit extreme having seen that, and it's amazing too, because people then become sober, and they think about what's really important, and they stop, people off their phones and their day-to-day business, and realizing that sort of thing. Anyway, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, but wow. Yeah, it's happening. The material world, it's a miserable place. I'll tell you, just you got me thinking of one incident that happened with a devotee. He was born in the movement, and he a nice devotee. But he had a girlfriend, and they were dating for maybe a few years. And at one point, she decided that she wanted to cancel the relationship, go on to another person. And this devotee, he kind of tried to deal with it and just live on his life, but he was so attached to this lady, he just couldn't live without this lady. So he was he's a young man, and and she was young, and he still had the key to the house because he was like part of the family. So at about midnight, he went into the house, and he went into her room, and he woke her up, and he said, "This is what you did to me." And he had a gun, and he put it to his head and killed himself in front of her. He was just suffering so much. You imagine how that must have been pretty traumatic for her too. Imagine waking up and then her ex-boyfriend just. So yeah, the material world, it's ruthless. So better just take shelter of Krishna as much as we can. Is there anything else? Any other question or comment?
There was a thing with Srila Prabhupada real quick about suicides and what happens to the soul. They get only a subtle body.
They get a subtle body.
They don't get a gross one.
Yeah.
And they're relatively unhappy. So
Yeah.
therefore they
Oh yeah.
fortunately living it.
Ghosts are not happy.
So the soul.
There's no cast for the friendly ghost.
There's no escaping it. So the point is, even they have a situation or consequence they have to deal with. And
Yeah, it's another horrible existence.
I have a question about anthropomorphism. You said, what attributing human features to God.
Yeah.
Of course, we understand that Krishna is not a human being. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How do we understand the differentiation between a person? We call him a person, but we don't call him a human being. He's not bound to the human features.
Well, we do say he appears in a human-like form. Yeah.
What is it? His original form is like the human being.
Yeah.
So can we call him a human being? Still, Prabhupada says in the purport, he is not a human being.
Yeah. Human-like. Probably use that word, human-like. In other words, he has 2 arms, 2 legs, human-like, but his body is completely transcendental. Just like within our body, there's a spirit soul. That's who we are. But his body is completely spirit. It's just total spirit. There's no veins. Ashnabiram means no veins. He's got a completely transcendental body. Yeah. And he's got a mind too, but it's a transcendental mind.
Are the spirit souls, are they also human-like in their spiritual form?
Yeah.
Or they can?
And we also have a spiritual body there. Also Ashnaviram. Yeah. But the difference is that everything is coming from Krishna. And we're part of Krishna. And he expands himself. Just like in that pastime of the cowherd boys. They were stolen by Lord Brahma Vimohana Lila. He stole all the calves and the cowherd boys, and he just expanded himself. And in the spiritual world also, it's not that Krishna is there in Goloka Vrindavan. He's only there with one person. No, everybody is seeing Krishna. Yeah, unlimited. Yeah, Goloka Vrindavan's a big place, so it's not that there's just one Krishna walking around. No, he expanded himself, and he's associated. Yeah. And the cowherd boys and the gopis also, they're thinking that Krishna's only with me. No, he's with everyone. Amazing. Yeah. Krishna is the master of mystics. Yeah.
As a follow-up to Prabhu's question, I heard that you said spiritual body, but I heard that I guess our whole soul is in our heart, like everything is there. You don't get like a spiritual body.
Yeah, you get a spiritual body.
So does the soul go into that body?
Well, the soul, it grows. Now it's
So
kind
it
of,
spins.
yeah. Now it's kind of, contracted because of our material desires. We have these material desires. We have these bodies. So yeah, as we grow spiritually, then the spiritual body grows.
From the soul itself, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate the point about we should not desire not to have another material body, get another body at the same
Another
time.
disease, yeah.
The disease, and that's one of the main diseases. How do we reconcile that with Lord Chaitanya's prayer about Mama Janmani Janmani Shvalim Bhavatan Bhakti, psychologically and mentally speaking? How do we reconcile those?
Yeah, that's very advanced. So one devotee said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I just want to come back birth after birth and distribute your books. Prabhupada said, don't think you're so advanced. Do your business and get out of here. Go back home. He said in different contexts. Another person said that, and Prabhupada said, no, that's first class. So he would say that, he would say different things to different people. Just like two sannyasis took sannyas, and Prabhupada told one sannyasi, you should just travel and preach. Just travel, don't stay in anyone, just travel and preach. And he told another sannyasi, you stay here and you manage. So he would give different instructions to different people. But throughout Prabhupada's books, he's expressing that, advance in Krishna consciousness and go back home, go back to God. That's a very advanced level where we come back again. Because the danger is there of us having to, or getting contaminated again. And one might say, well, I'm going to take birth in a nice family, but Prabhupada had 5 children, and none of them became devotees. And Advaitacharya had 6 sons, and 3 became Mayavadis. So he's God. So better not take a chance. Let's try our best to become as pure as we can in service to Krishna. Try to serve Krishna as nicely as we can. And pray that we can go back home. On that note, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.